Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I had some cooked and shredded chicken that I had in the freezer. I needed to use that up. And then I had one of these Pillsbury pizza crusts that I got on sale, I think at Publix a few weeks ago. And so I decided to do a barbecue chicken pizza. All I'm going to do is place the pizza crust on a greased baking dish and place it into the oven and bake it according to the package instructions. While that's baking, I took that chicken and I just let it thaw. I'm going to add in some of this Kinder's barbecue seasoning, give that a little toss, and then I'm going to add in this Kinder's hickory barbecue sauce and then give that a good stir and set that to the side. Once the crust is out of the oven, I'm then going to take some of that same Kinder's barbecue sauce and spread that out over the pizza. And instead of barbecue sauce here, you could do buffalo for like a buffalo chicken pizza. I'm going to take some shredded mozzarella cheese, spread that out over the barbecue sauce. Then I'm taking that barbecue chicken, spreading that out. And then if you don't like pineapple on your pizza, don't add it. But we love pineapple on our pizza. And I love the sweetness that it gives with the chicken. And then I'm adding some cooked and crumbled bacon. Then I'm going to add some shredded cheddar cheese. And I also had just a little bit of this shredded Colby Jack. So I decided to add that. And then I figured, hey, I only had a little bit of the mozzarella cheese in the bag. And I thought, let's just go ahead and toss that on. So I put this back into the oven and cooked it for another maybe 7 or 8 minutes until the crust was cooked all the way through and it was golden brown. And then for the side, I had just a few pieces of the Tyson popcorn chicken in my freezer that I needed to use up. So I just popped that into the air fryer. I ate mine with, I think, a little honey mustard, and I tossed Gary's in some of the Buffalo Wild Wings sauce. And then we had just a little bit of veggies, and that was our dinner. Quick and easy and delicious. For dinner the next night, I did blackened Mahi-Mahi with mango salsa. I did not follow a recipe for this. So years ago, I saw on Pioneer Woman, she used canned mango chunks to make a mango salsa. And I was like, that's perfect, because with mangoes, I have a hard time with those because I feel like I have a hard time getting them ripe. And when they're not ripe, they're not very good. So I just kind of chopped those canned mango chunks into finer pieces. Now, these veggies I chopped with my food chopper. I've got a mini orange bell pepper, mini red bell pepper, and some purple onion. So I'm going to add that and then add in some jalapeno. You can remove the seeds and the membranes if you want to. I just left them in. Next, I'm going to add in some cilantro and then salt. And last but not least, some fresh lime juice. I am going to give that a good mix and then set that to the side until we're ready for it for dinner. Do give this a taste and adjust the seasonings to your taste. You know, a little more salt, a little more cilantro, lime juice, whatever you want to add. Next, I'm going to do coconut rice in the rice cooker. I will link the recipe in the description box below for you. Here's what I'm going to use. I've got some jasmine rice, some sugar, salt, unsweetened coconut milk, and then not pictured is some water. Now, you can do this on top of the stove if you want. I just love my rice cooker. I've used a rice cooker, honestly, since I was a teenager. I think I've mentioned before on my channel, but in high school, my best friend, she is Vietnamese, and my high school boyfriend, he is Laotian. And so between the two of them, they always had a rice cooker with rice at their house, like all the time, and I grew to love it then. So they're super easy. You literally just put everything in the rice cooker and turn it on, and it does it itself. So I've got the water, and then I added the rice. I did rinse the rice in cold water. I'm going to add the salt, the sugar, and then the unsweetened coconut milk. Give it a stir, and then put the lid on it. And like I said, just turn it on to cook. And then once it is done, it will flip itself to warm. When I hear it flip itself to warm, I will unplug the rice cooker. I leave the lid on. I do not touch it, and I let it sit for 10 minutes and then fluff it with a fork. To to go along with this, I'm making some Cuban style black beans. I didn't follow a specific recipe for this, but I'll put one down in the description box below that's similar to what I did. In this pot, I've got a little bit of oil here. I'm going to add some of those same chopped veggies that I used in the mango salsa. So the red and orange bell pepper and then the purple onion. Season that with a little bit of salt. Give that a stir, and I cooked that for about 5 minutes on medium heat until those veggies were tender. Next, I'm going to add in some minced garlic. Again, give it a stir, cook it for about a minute. Now I'm going to add in some coriander, followed by cumin, then some oregano flakes. Then I'm going to add in some paprika. I've been wanting to try this. I got this from Penzi's. This is the smoked Spanish style paprika. So I just added that, gave that a stir, cooked that for a minute or two. Now I'm going to add in my black beans. This is just a can that has the juice still in it. Normally in most recipes, you rinse and drain the black beans, but in all the recipes I saw for the Cuban style, they said do not drain it. Now I added in a little bit of water, just like maybe a third of the can, and then brought that to a boil, reduced it to a simmer for maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so until it was the desired consistency. Now, I had Mahi-Mahi in my freezer. I bought it at Sam's Club. I just allowed it to thaw. I patted it dry really well. I'm going to place it into some oil. This skillet is on medium-high heat. I'm going to use this Blackened seasoning. This is just the Kroger brand. You can use your favorite or make your own. But again, just season both sides, and then you just cook this for, it depends on the thickness of your fish and how you like it done. These took, I think, about like 3.5 minutes per side, and then that was it. You could also use tilapia if you would prefer to do that. So to assemble these, just lay down some of the coconut rice, added the blackened mahi-mahi, that mango salsa, the Cuban black beans, and then we've got a lime on the side to squeeze over everything. This was delicious. It was so good. Yum. Just so good. Dinner the next night was our Sunday dinner or Sunday supper. I did a maple pork loin with apples and onions. I believe I've made this before on my channel, but I will have the recipe linked in the description box below for you. I'm going to start out by making some green beans, and I decided to cook these in my granny's pot. This was my mom's mom, and all I've done is chopped up some bacon. I'm going to cook that on medium heat until the bacon is crisp. I'm then going to add in some diced onions and cook that for maybe about 3 to 5 minutes until those onions get tender. I'm then going to add in some garlic and cook that for just a minute. Now, you can use canned green beans, frozen green beans. I'm using fresh today. That's what I have on hand. I trimmed the ends. These are, of course, washed. And then I cut them into more bite-sized pieces. You can leave them whole if you want to. I'm then going to add in some chicken broth. Or in this case, I'm using some chicken bouillon powder and water. After I add the broth, I'm going to give that a little stir and then season this to taste. I'm adding in some pepper and salt. Now, you could add in garlic powder, onion powder, Cajun seasoning, whatever you want to do. Granny always kept it simple. I don't remember her ever using garlic powder or onion powder, but I decided to add it, and I don't think she would mind on that. I also added in a pinch of sugar. So I'm going to give that a stir and then bring this to a boil, and I simmered them until they're done to your liking. They're tender and the water has evaporated. Now, here in the South, I don't want to say everyone, but everybody I've ever known simmers their green beans to death. We simmer them until they are super soft. That's just how I like them. That's how I grew up eating them. But if you don't want to simmer them that long, don't. Simmer them until you're happy with them. Now I'm going to start on the maple pork loin, and I'm going to start out by making like the little sauce. The recipe called for apple juice, which I did not have, but I did have this apple cider, so I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to add in some maple syrup, followed by some minced garlic and cinnamon. Now, if you can see here, I decided to double the sauce, and yeah, my measuring cup was way too small. So here I'm just moving it to something a little bigger because the glass was a little full. So we're going to give that a really good mix and then set that to the side. Now, in this skillet, I've got some olive oil and a little bit of butter. This is on about medium-high heat. I seasoned the pork loin on all sides with some salt and pepper, and I'm just going to sear that pork loin on all sides. Just a couple minutes per each side will do. We're not trying to cook it at this point. Now I'm going to add in some thinly sliced onion. I had a purple onion I needed to use up, so that's what I'm using. And once I've added the onion, I'm going to add in my apples. I just cored and sliced these. And I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper over the apples and onions, give those a little toss. And then we're going to pour that sauce that we made just a second ago over the apples and everything. And then this is going to go into a preheated oven. This was set at 400 degrees, and you'll want to bake this for about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Just depends on how thick your pork loin is. You just want to make sure that the pork loin is at least 145 to 150 degrees internal temperature. So once that was done, I removed the pork loin, covered it loosely with some foil, and allowed it to rest for about 10 minutes. And then I wanted to thicken up that sauce a little bit. So while the pork was resting, I just simmered the apples and onions on top of the stove, like I said, just to let it thicken up. To go along with that, I'm trying a new recipe for something called potatoes Romanoff. I had this sharp cheddar cheese, a few russet potatoes, and some sour cream that I needed to use up, and just went on Pinterest and found this recipe. This was so good. So I'm going to shred up that sharp cheddar cheese, and then here I've got some baked potatoes. All I did was pierce these. I didn't even rub them with I rubbed them with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and baked them until they were tender. And then we're just going to grate the potatoes. I'm just using this little rotating one. You could use a box grater if you want to. Now we're going to add those potatoes to a bowl. And then in this little skillet here, I just have a shallot that I diced up and softened in just a little bit of butter. I'm going to add that. And you don't have to do that. If you don't mind the texture of the raw shallots, you can just chop them up and put them directly in there. Now I'm going to add in some minced garlic, followed by some salt and pepper, and then a little bit of white pepper. Now, the recipes that I saw, several of them for potatoes Romanoff, some of them added cayenne, but I decided to omit that. You could add it if you want to. Now, several of the recipes also suggested adding in some grated Parmesan cheese. I had some shredded, so I'm going to add the shredded and then add in that sharp white cheddar cheese. Give that a little stir, and then we're going to add in the sour cream and give that a good mix. Now, a few of the recipes said that you could add in a little bit of milk or cream, half and half, if you wanted to do that, depending on what texture you wanted. We're going to add that to a greased casserole dish, and then I had just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of grated Parmesan cheese in this container, so I'm going to add that along with some of that shredded Parmesan cheese, and then the shredded white cheddar cheese. And then this is going to go into a preheated oven. I baked this at 400 degrees because that's what the oven was on for the pork loin. And I baked it for about 35 minutes until it was golden brown. I have these honey butter crescent rolls I got on sale at Publix, and this is our first time having those. I just baked them up according to the package instructions, and we really liked them. They were good. All right, here are the plates. So we've got the pork loin, that apple and onion sauce on top, the potatoes Romanoff, some of the green beans, the crescent rolls. This was delicious. The pork loin with those apples, they're so good. And then we loved the potatoes Romanoff, especially Gary. He really liked those. They had good flavor. So, if you are looking for a new potato recipe to try, maybe for Easter or another special occasion, I would look into this. It was really good. We would make those again. The next day, I was digging around in my freezer and found some of the little frozen chicken cordon bleus that I got from Sam's Club. For whatever reason, that just sounded good to me for dinner that night, so I decided to make that. Here's everything I'm going to put together. I have those chicken cordon bleus, like I mentioned, and then just these boxed au gratin potatoes. I'm going to bake those according to the package instructions. I'm going to make some quick glazed carrots and broccoli. Here are the finished chicken cordon bleu little patties. And then, like I said, I just cooked up the au gratin potatoes according to the package instructions. For my quick glazed carrots, I've shared this many times before my channel. I just drained the carrots, add them to a little pot, a little bit of butter, some brown sugar, honey, salt and pepper, and then simmer those. And then for the broccoli, I tossed them with just a little bit of olive oil spray, some of that Kinder's buttery garlic and herb seasoning. I cooked them in the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 7 to 8 minutes or so. And here are the plates. So we've got the chicken cordon bleu, the au gratin potatoes, those glazed carrots and broccoli. Yummy little quick put together dinner. For dinner the next night, I tried something new to us. I made Mojo chicken thighs. Now, I did not follow a specific recipe for this, but I did look at many different recipes for Mojo pork and chicken and kind of did my own thing. So the inspiration behind making this is I got this Badia Mojo seasoning and I wanted to use it. So we're going to use that and these other ingredients to marinate our chicken. I've got orange juice, minced garlic, some lime juice, cilantro, and then that Mojo citrus rub. So not pictured there is some olive oil. I decided to add that. I just mixed up the little marinade in a measuring glass, added it to a Ziploc bag with some bone-in skin on chicken thighs, and then I marinated that overnight. To cook these, I just laid the chicken thighs on a foil-lined baking sheet, and I baked these at 375 degrees for about 30 minutes on each side. You just want to bake these until they're at least 165 degrees internal temperature, and you can broil them for a minute or two if you want to get that skin nice and crispy on top. To go with the Mojo chicken, I'm making some Cuban style black beans and rice. I am doing this in my rice cooker. You can of course do this on top of the stove. I'm adding in a can of black beans that I rinsed and drained along with some rice that I rinsed and drained. Next, I'm going to add in some chicken broth, or in this case, I'm using water and bouillon powder. Then I'm going to add in some salt, oregano leaves, and cumin. Then I'm going to add in my sauteed veggies. Now, I looked at several different recipes for this, and they all said don't use purple onions. I don't know if that's a no-no in Cuban cuisine. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but that's what I had on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. So here I just sauteed some finely diced purple onion and then orange and red bell pepper. I sauteed them until they were tender. I'm going to give that a stir in the rice cooker and then put the lid on it, flip it to cook. Here are these sweet plantains. I found these at Trader Joe's. I've heard really good things about these. I'm going to cook these in the air fryer at 350 degrees. I cooked them for about 4 or 5 minutes on one side, flipped them and cooked them for another 3 or 4 minutes until they were golden brown to my liking. Now, once the rice cooker flipped itself from cooked to warm, I unplug it, I don't touch it, and then I let it sit for 10 minutes and then fluffed it with a fork. Here are the plates. So we've got those chicken thighs, the plantains, the rice and beans. And I know this isn't traditional at all, but Gary is a huge condiment person. Pretty much everything he eats, he wants some kind of condiment with it. So we dug around just to see what we had that we thought might go well. And we chose salsa verde. Like I said, I know it's probably not traditional at all, but the acidity and the tanginess of the salsa verde with the rice and beans, chef's kiss. It was delicious, but everything was so good. We love the Mojo chicken. The fried plantains were really yummy, and like I said, the black beans and rice with that salsa verde, so good. The next night, I really didn't feel like cooking, so I dug around in my freezer and pantry. Here's what I came up with. I've got a can of peas that I'm going to cook up, this Kraft mac and cheese deluxe, and then these frozen chicken tenders. Now, I didn't realize until I was getting ready to cook these that I'd bought the Southern style Tyson chicken tenders. To be honest, I didn't even know that they made a Southern style, but I cooked these up in the air fryer. I'm going to try to find these again when I go to get frozen chicken tenders again, because these were really, really good. We enjoyed these so much better than just the regular Tyson chicken tenders. And then I just cooked up the macaroni and cheese according to the package instructions, drained the peas, added a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper, and then just warmed those up. And then I made my homemade honey mustard sauce for dipping. I've shared this before on my channel. This recipe and all the recipes from today's video will be in the description box below. So check that out for the measurements, but it's basically just mayonnaise, mustard, honey, and you can add a little bit of lemon juice if you want to. And that was our dinner this night. Gary ate later than I did, but he had the chicken strips and the macaroni and cheese. He passed on the peas. And yeah, quick and easy, yummy little dinner. Dinner the next night, for some odd reason, pancakes sounded really good to us. So I had this Great Value Complete Pancake Mix. I just mixed this up according to the package instructions. However, instead of water, I used some buttermilk and I added a splash of vanilla. And then I had these boar's head sausage patties in my freezer that I needed to use up. So I just defrosted them in the microwave, cooked them up in the air fryer. Here are the plates. We've got the pancakes. I have the sausage patties. I thought I had grabbed the chicken sausage patties patties, but I grabbed pork, and pork sausage doesn't agree with Gary. So I cooked him up a couple slices of just the pre-cooked Aldi brand bacon in the microwave, and then he wanted some eggs, so I just scrambled him a couple eggs with a little bit of cheese real quick, and that was our dinner that night. All right, that is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video, that you got some dinner ideas from it. If you did like it, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.